Veronica Lake finally talks a Boodle and Lad. Veronica Lake was born Constance Frances Marie Ockelman on November 14, 1922 in Brooklyn, New York, and she was one of Hollywood's most beautiful and famous stars of the 1940s. Her early years were tough and unstable. After her father died in a bad accident when she was just a child, her mother married again and the family moved around several times before living in Miami, Florida. As a teenager, Veronica was smart and always wanted to do something. Though people often said she didn't follow rules and was a dreamer. She went to a Catholic school and later took acting classes where her teacher saw her amazing beauty and special charm. These things would soon make her stand out in Hollywood. Her trip into movies began when her mother saw her daughter's talent and moved the family to Beverly Hills so that Veronica could try to work in the movie business. First, she acted in small parts using her real name. She soon took the stage name Veronica Lake, which perfectly went with her mysterious style. In 1939, she made her first movie without getting credit, and by the early 1940s, Paramount Pictures had signed her to a contract, training her to become one of their biggest money-making stars. Lake's big moment came with the movie I Wanted Wings. 1941, where her cool, spooky beauty and special hairstyle, long blonde hair falling over one eye, dances. This hairstyle became her famous peek-a-boo look, quickly copied by millions of women across America during World War II. Strangely, the style, while glamorous, was criticized by the government because it was thought to be impractical and even dangerous. For women working in factory Escher machines could catch loose hair. Still, it made Veronica Lake a fashion and cultural icon of that time. Throughout the 1940s, Lake starred in a bunch of memorable movies, often paired with actor Alan Ladd, who at 5'6" found a perfect on-screen partner in the tiny Veronica, who stood just under 5'2". Together they made one of Hollywood's most loved screen pairs, appearing in classics such as This Gun for Hire, 1942, The Glass Key, 1942, and The Blue Dahlia, 1946. Her presence on screen was an interesting mix of being fragile and sexy, with her cool, distant manner hiding an underneath emotional strength that connected with audiences. Beyond her work with Ladd, she also made her mark in other important movies, including the funny comedy Sullivan's Travels, 1941, directed by Preston Sturges, in which played the girl opposite Jill Crea. This movie, now thought of as a masterpiece, showed Lake's gift for comedy and her ability to play more than just the bad girl. Another great role was in I Married a Witch, 1942, where she showed her charm, wit, and playful spirit as a beautiful witch. A performance that influenced later portrayals of witches in popular culture, even inspiring the creators of the TV show Bewitched decades later. Despite her success, Lake's career and personal life were troubled. By the late 1940s, her popularity went down because of a mix of bad career choices, fights with studio bosses, and her well-documented struggles with drinking and mental health. She was often described as moody, which hurt her reputation within Hollywood's distally controlled studio system. Her marriages, 4 in total, were stormy and ended in divorce, leaving her with money problems and personnel difficult. Sadly, by the 1950s, Veronica Lake, once one of the brightest stars in Hollywood, had almost disappeared from the screen. Her latter years were marked by hardship. She drifted away from Hollywood, worked as a waitress and bartender, and lived a mostly unknown life in New York and later in Vermont. In the early 1960s, she made a brief attempt to return to stage and screen, even publishing an autobiography titled Veronica, the autobiography of Veronica Lake in 1970, which honestly detailed her rise to fame and her fall. Though her later performances never brought back the magic of her best days, they showed a woman trying desperately to make peace with her past and get back some dignity in her craft. Veronica Lake's personality was marked by a series of intense, often stormy relationships, beginning with her first marriage to the art director John S. Detley in 1940. At the time, Detley was already an established person in Hollywood, known for his work in many movie sets, and Lake, then a rising starlet, seemed drawn to the stability and artistic feelings he represented. Together, they had a daughter, Elaine, who was born in 1941, marking what should have been a happy milestone in Lake's young life. However, the couple's hopes for a happy family were soon overshadowed by tragedy. In July 1943, Lake gave birth to a son, Anthony, who was born too early after Lake suffered a scary accident on a movie set, tripping over a lighting cable, a sign of the physical demands and dangers actresses faced during that time. Sadly, Anthony served only a few days, passing away on July 15, 1943, a loss that devastated Lake emotionally and strained her already fragile marriage. The grief coupled with the pressures of her growing career led to a separation from Detley in August 1943, with their divorce finalized by December of the same year, ending what had been a brief and emotionally difficult union. In 1944, Lake found herself drawn to the world of movies once again, this time marrying Hungarian-born movie director Andor Dito. Their relationship was marked by both passion and conflict, a reflection of the intensity with which both individuals approached life and work. Together they had 2 children, a son Andre Anthony Michael III, who was known in the family as Michael Dito, and a daughter Diana, born in October 1948. Their home life, however, was far from smooth. Just days before Diana's birth, Lake's own mother filed a lawsuit against her demanding money support, a bitter reminder of the complicated family problems that Lake had to deal with alongside her public career. Despite these challenges, Lake pursued personal interests that showed her independence and determination. In 1946, she bought an airplane for Dito and shortly after earned her pilot's license herself, a remarkable achievement for a woman in the 1940s. Lake's skill and courage as a pilot allowed her to take solo flights, including a memorable trip from Los Angeles to New York, which she took when leaving Dito, an act that symbolized both her independence and her desire to take back control over her life. Nevertheless, the marriage ultimately could not handle the pressures of Hollywood parenting responsibilities and personal differences, culminating in their divorce in 1952. Lake's third marriage in September 1955 was to songwriter Joseph Allen McCarthy, a man whose creative work matched her own artistic feelings. This marriage, like her previous ones, was filled with difficulties, ultimately ending in divorce in 1959. Thinking about her personal life a decade later, Lake revealed in 1969 that she rarely saw her children, an honest acknowledgement of the sacrifices and emotional distances created by her career and stormy personal history. Her relationships, while sometimes brief and troubled, reflect a woman dealing with intense pressures of fame, personalis, and the constant balancing act between professional ambition and familial life. A testament to both her strength and the costs of stardom in Hollywood's golden age, Veronica Lake, the famous Hollywood starlet whose icy blonde hair and sultry screen presence made her one of the most unforgettable faces of the 1940s, has finally broken her long-standing silence in her relationship with Alan Ladd, her frequent co-star and once rumored romantic interest. For decades, fans and gossip columns speculated endlessly about what their connection was like, as two shared undeniable chemistry on screen in classic movies like This Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia. Now, after years of staying quiet, Lake has spoken openly, providing insights that are both honest and reflective of her personal experience in Hollywood. Alan and I always had a connection that people couldn't quite put into words, she says, her voice mixed with nostalgia and sadness. On set, we just understood each other in a way that was rare, almost magical. But outside the cameras, our lives were complicated, tangled in the pressures of fame and the expectations that came with it. Her revelation shines a light on the inside of Hollywood stardom, often hidden by glitz, glamour, and public's perception. Veronica continues, people always assumed that what they saw on screen was exactly what was happening off screen, but that was never entirely true. Alan and I shared moments that were private, moments that meant the world to me, and yet we had to keep some hidden. It was a constant balancing act between what the audience wanted and what we truly felt. This acknowledgement of the difference between public image and private reality gives fans a rare glimpse into the emotional complexity behind their legendary partnership. It also shows the isolating nature of fame in the golden age of Hollywood, where actors were often trapped in studio contracts, public scrutiny, and tabloid sensationals. Veronica further explains the detailed dynamic of her professional and personal relations with Ladd, emphasizing that while they shared undeniable chemistry, it was not always easy to navigate. There were times when working together was effortless, when the cameras seemed to capture a connection that was electric and real, she says. Other times, the weight of our own personal struggles made even a simple conversation challenging. Alan was a wonderful man, but he had his own demons just as I did. Our lives intersected bitterly and painfully in ways that people watching our movies could never fully understand. By sharing these thoughts, Lake makes both herself and Lad more human, painting a portrait of two talented artists trying to stay authentic while dealing with the pressures of stardom, studio interference, and public's expectation. Finally, Veronica touches on the lasting impact of her relationship with Lad on her life and career, revealing that their connection shaped not only her performances, but also her understanding of love, partnership, and loss. Alan left a mark on me that none else ever could, she admits, her voice softening with emotion. Challenged me, inspired me, and yes, at times frustrated me. But that is what made our bond so unforgettable. Looking back now, I realize that what we had was rare and perhaps it was meant to remain partly a mystery, something that belongs to us, and not to the public eye. In breaking her silence, Veronica Lake has given fans both a sense of closure and a richer understanding of the emotional depth behind her screen persona. Her words remind us that behind the dazzling lights of Hollywood, there are real people with complex relationships, private struggles, and moments of beauty and heartbreak that go beyond the silver screen. In June of 1973, after completing a series of shows in England that included promoting her autobiography and participating in a summer stock theater tour, Veronica Lake returned to the United States. Her time abroad had been both a nostalgic and thoughtful period as she revisited aspects of her famous career and tried to reconnect with theater, a medium that had once been central to her artistic identity. Upon returning home, she traveled through the scenic landscapes of Vermont, a state whose quiet charm and countryside beauty may have offered her a temporary sense of peace and break from the turbulence that had marked much of her personal life. However, during this journey, Lake began to experience significant physical discomfort. Concerned about persistent and worsening stomach pains, she decided to seek medical attention from a local doctor. The visit, initially intended to address what she may have considered health concerns, instead revealed a far more serious and ultimately devastating condition. She was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. This disease, which slowly damages liver tissue, was a direct result of her long-term struggles with alcohol consumption, a battle that had plagued her on and off through her adult life, and that had intersected tragically with both her personal happiness and professional phase. On June 26, 1973, following this alarming diagnosis, Lake was admitted to the University of Vermont Medical Center in Burlington, marking the beginning of her final days. The seriousness of her condition required specialized care. But despite the efforts of medical professionals, her health continued to get worse rapidly. Just over a week later, on July 7, 1973, Veronica Lake passed away in the hospital. The official causes of her death were recorded as acute hepatitis, an inflammation of the liver that can cause rapid and severe deterioration of liver function, and acute kidney injury, a condition that further complicated her already critical state. These medical crises showed the devastating toll that years of alcohol abuse and declining health had taken on her body, ultimately ending the life of a woman who had once been one of Hollywood's most bright and mysterious screen stars. Following her death, her son Michael took responsibility for her remains, claiming her body and making sure that arrangements were made in accordance with her family's wishes. The memorial service for Veronica Lake was held a few days later on July 11, 1973 at the Universal Chapel in New York City. The service provided an opportunity for friends, family, and admirers to pay tribute to her life and career, a life marked by both extraordinary success and deep personal struggle. Attendees remembered her famous peekaboo hairstyle, her striking screen presence, and the charm that had made her a symbol of glamour during Hollywood's golden age. Yet beyond her movie legacy, the service also reflected on the woman being the star, the challenges she faced, the strength she showed in her later years, and the lasting impact she left on the hearts of those who knew her and the audiences who had loved her performances for decades.